103 of 200 laps complete in the Kroger 300 on FX, presented by Oreo. Scott Riggs, the new daddy, trying to give himself a big Father's Day present. His wife Jay and his new son Lane back there in North Carolina watching Dad drive away from the pack right now. 2.6 seconds ahead of Mike Wallace, driving off Glenn Jarrett into another zip code. And you're about to tell us his car isn't quite perfect yet.
Okay, guys, sorry, I was talking to Harold Holley, the crew chief on the 10 car, and Scott reports the car is just a little bit loose, but I'm looking at the lap times, and he is still a quarter to 3/10 of a second faster than most of the other cars out there, pulling away. What Harold told him to do was just to race the racetrack. So don't worry about anybody else right now. The car is really good.
One car that isn't so good right now, the Dr. Pepper machine of Ron Hornaday running in the top 10. It looks like the engine has let go in that car. Tough break for Ron Hornaday. That car was really hooked up.
That car's been running really well since Ron's got in it. They've been getting better and better ever since the start of the season. You know, Ron took over, and it's a shame because they've had some really good runs the last several races.
Mike Wallace now 3.5 seconds in back of the Nesquik Ford of Scott Riggs. Riggs is no stranger to victory lane here at the Kentucky Speedway. He won a Craftsman Truck Series race here, and I tell you what, this guy has certainly taken this series this year by storm. No ordinary rookie.
I think it shows how strong that PPC Racing is, led by Greg Pollux and Harold Holley. They've had several different drivers over the years, and every year they find a way to winner's circle, and they find a way to fight for the championship.
There you see Scott Riggs, highest finishing rookie in 8 of 15 races so far. Here's Greg Biffle. He continues to mow his way through the field. Next on his hit list, he's looking now to the inside of Mike Wallace in that Biaggi Brothers machine. Here he is, look inside, now looking back to the outside as you look out through the front windshield of the Granger Ford. There you see his progression. Greg Biffle certainly a contender here this afternoon. Again, looking to the inside. He can just keep that car a little bit lower than Mike Wallace right now. Remember, his tires are a little bit fresher. That's part of the problem for Wallace right now.
Well, that right there is a perfect example of how we make a pass at a track like Kentucky here. The cars that are a little bit freer are able to rotate in the center. And you can tell when a guy's tight. Right in the center, as he starts to get back to throttle, he moves up about a car width. The guy behind him can just turn, the car rotates, gets in the throttle, and drives underneath him.
So Biffle now in the second spot, the number 4 car there, the white machine of Mike Wallace now in the third spot. Those two cars have pulled away from 4th place Todd Bodine. And as you look out through the front windshield of Greg Biffle, Scott Riggs is nowhere to be found. You usually could maybe pick up that bright yellow race car. You can't do it. He's that far ahead right now of Greg Biffle. Let's go back to Glenn Jarrett.
Well, thanks, Mark. I'm still in the 10 pit. I'm with crew chief Harold Holley. And for those of you that may not recognize him, big change in your look, but we'll get to that in a minute. That car looks really good. I know he said it's a little loose, but man, he is pulling away.
Well, last stop, we was real free. On that last stop there, we chose to go ahead and bid. The big black cloud was coming over the stands there, and we decided to go ahead and get it done so we could get our tractor fishing back. Team owner told me he felt like it was going to rain all night. He's a pretty good weatherman, so that's the way it ended up working out. So the strategy deal as far as tractor fishing worked out good for us. There wasn't very many of us on pit road, so we was able to make some pretty aggressive changes. We pulled some rubber, got rid of a rear sway bar, and did some things. Cars were eating hustle to drive it now, so maybe we got a little something for them today.
Okay, what I was referring to, guys, for those of you that don't recognize Harold, I've known this guy for about 15 years. He had hair about halfway down his shoulders. It's all gone. He said that was due to the new era. Scott Riggs had a baby boy, so for some reason, Harold Holley cut his hair.
Scott Riggs has led 59 of the first 111 laps so far, and right now his lead 3.4 seconds over second place running Greg Biffle. Scott Riggs continues to lead the Kroger 300 on FX, presented by Oreo, but Greg Biffle has chopped the 3.4 second lead down to 2.7 seconds. So with those fresher tires, he is certainly on the move now, working his way around David Ruderman, who took over the 87 for Joe Nemechek today. He has gone a lap down to leader Scott Riggs, and now the second place car of Greg Biffle continuing to try to reel in leader Scott Riggs, who has been at the point of this race 3 times so far, starting yesterday and now here this afternoon. Out of the race, Kevin Grubb just a moment ago, the engine letting go on that car. As you see Jason Keller now back there battling for the 10th position with Johnny Sauter. Also Jay Sauter there, his older brother. There's a look outside from the inside of the Johnny Sauter machine. Currently 10th, started 32nd. And what about Ricky Hendrick? That young rookie driver has certainly got over his injuries from Las Vegas, and it seems like the last few weeks he's really started, Chad, to get himself on a bit of a roll.
Well, we're going to do a pre-race pick, you know, and I know it's after the fact. It's really not fair, but I'm going to have to slide Ricky Hendrick in there to be my pre-race, pre-rain race delayed pick.
Yeah, nice to pick it after you see him moving up through the pack. Yellow flag is out. It is for Dan Pardis, who's spun. We see a lot of tape flying off the Net Zero Chevrolet of Jack Sprague, and we hear that he caught a piece of the wall as well. So there's the outdoor channel car of Dan Pardis. He brings out this caution flag. I believe that is number 6 on the race. We had 5 last night, the red flag, and 1 here so far this afternoon. And Jack Sprague, his troubles continue. Both he and Pardis were able to drive away.
I think the rest of the field is going to be grateful for this caution flag too, because the 10 car and the 60 car were coming real strong, and it wasn't going to be too long where they were going to start putting about 25th place a lap down.
So Scott Riggs has caught up to the pace car. That's certainly good news for Greg Biffle. He was already closing in on Scott Riggs. It'll be interesting to see what happens on the restart, as Biffle was slowly but surely, he wasn't, you know, chewing up big chunks of real estate between himself and the leader, but he was slowly inching his way to the front.
I don't think we'll see people pit right now unless they're having problems, because we saw pit stops just 20 or 30 laps ago. However, what did happen is before the rains came last night, there were several cars. There was about 8 of them that pitted about 15 laps before the rains came. And I think what we will see is those guys coming in right now.
And they will be led by the leader, Scott Riggs. He'll give up the number 1 spot. Mike Wallace comes on to pit road as well. So does Jamie McMurray, Tony Raines, Kerry Earnhardt, Casey Mears, along with Scott Wimmer and a host of others. 45 miles per hour making their way down the pit lane. And he right now in front of the 10 cars, Glenn Jarrett.
Scott Riggs brings the 10 car in, guys. They're going to change 4 tires. They want to take every opportunity they can. There was a lot of discussion between the crew chief Harold Holly and Scott as to whether they should pit now. There are about 81 laps left, and their pit window is about 75 to 78 laps, so they may be able to stretch this. 4 tires, a slight chassis adjustment. Actually, the car had gotten a little snug in the middle of the corner then, so they're still working on Scott's car.
So Scott is down and away. That turns the lead back over to Greg Biffle. And that'll be the 2nd time he has led the race here. And again, first time he did it was, yesterday. This is the first time today.
What I was curious about, Glenn, you mentioned that it's possible they may be able to stretch the window for fuel. Right now we have about 80 laps to go. I'd like to find out in just a minute here after our break how many laps the PPC Racing thinks they can go, and we'll be right back after that.
Back at the Kentucky Speedway, 122 laps are now complete. The race is restarted. Greg Biffle gets a big jump on the 2nd place car of Todd Bodine, and that leaves the 3rd place machine of Ashton Lewis Jr. mired back there in a little bit of traffic, trying to break out so he can try to chase down the 2 lead machines. Biffle continuing to dominate this race. He had the lead, of course, when we had the red flag and the rain last night. Here's Johnny Sauter now looking to the inside of Ricky Hendrick. As they battle down the backstretch, his brother Jay Sauter there providing a little drafting help as Ricky sort of hung up on the outside right now. There you have Kevin LePage again, that yellow and orange machine. LePage running in the 5th spot, being challenged by Johnny Sauter, Ricky Hendrick, among others. There's the Oreo in-car camera for Johnny Sauter, passing the wounded Net Zero Chevy of Jack Sprague. That thing is looking worse and worse every lap. The tape's flying off now.
Definitely battered and bruised. Mike Wallace is going to try to take advantage of him too, as far as getting a little draft out.
Did a nice job squeezing down there in front of Ricky Hendrick and in front of Jay Sauter. Sort of an eye through the needle there, but it looks like Sauter will come back and take a peek to the inside. Again, the string of cars battling for the 5th spot, being held by Kevin LePage, again, that is the bright yellow and orange Sequoia Chevrolet out in front of that 5th place battle right now. A lot of cars closing in. Scott Riggs is right there after the pit stop. And before we went to break, Chad had a question for Glenn Jarrett, and he is our answer man down there in the pits. Glenn?
Well, the answer, Chad, the question that he asked, just to remind the fans, was what was the fuel window? I said that he had 81 laps to go when he pitted on lap 119. Well, their fuel window is actually 75 laps. He cannot make it on fuel. I asked crew chief Harold Holly, well, then why did you pit right then? He said, we want to go ahead and we only had one more set of tires on. We might not get to change them under another caution. Put them on now. They needed to make an adjustment to the car. They took a little air pressure out of the left rear, a little bit in the right rear. It was a little snug in the center of the corner. This way, if the race goes green the rest of the way, and he needs to make a pit stop at the end, it will be a splash and go, gas only. So that's Harold Holly's strategy.
You know, Glenn, not only that, it's not a bad strategy at all, because if there's 7 or 8 or 10 caution laps between now and then, he'll make his fuel window. So it's probably playing the odds a little bit. He's back there in a little bit of traffic. I think in the end it'll pay off. It's a good move.
Right now he's beating up on the Sauter family. It's 3-on-1. It's still, he's making his way through. Here's the battle for 5th now. Make that 5th spot. There's Ricky Hendrick on the inside. On the outside, the 37, that's Kevin LePage sitting in for the injured Jeff Purvis. And we hope that Jeff is doing well and on the road to recovery. Last time we saw Jeff, awful wreck at Nazareth, tough lick, and we hope he's doing well. Ricky Hendrick, you see his progression. That car looks good. He looks steady.
Well, you know, like I said, that was my pre-race pick, and he is strong.
3 15th place finishes in 6 races, after returning from his Las Vegas injuries, and he's stuck on that 15. He finished 15th here at Kentucky last year as well. So up front, it's still Greg Biffle. His lead, 1.6 seconds over Todd Bodine. Ashton Lewis is 3rd, Jason Keller 4th, and rounding out the top 5, it's rookie Ricky Hendrick.